Welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Once again, we are storming through the Shinra building, although this time we aren't planning to save somebody, trying to find something.
And kill Scarlet, apparently, too.
Why not?
Well, we know. Well, actually, Dwibs, if you kill Scarlet right here and then, the Dementors will come in and stop you from doing it.
Will they?
Either that, or I'll get an MGS freestyle game over.
Remember, Scarlet can't die yet until she's piloting a giant mech alongside Heidegger. Unless
Also,
they end
now's
up
not the
changing
time
that
to
because
sleep.
the Dementors are gone by that point.
Yes, Shira?
I said now's not the time to sleep.
It's
Well,
okay,
technically, she
Shiroi.
was just taking a break.
Also, I'm pretty sure the benches are like made of hard plastic or metal or something.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Yuffie's landing on top of them is fine.
You'd be surprised how easily people can fall asleep regardless of how hard
no.
Yes,
it is.
Yuffie?
Hey, okay, first of all, stop interrupting me, okay? It's my game!
Actually,
Shut up, you!
technically it's my game, and you're just getting a side part in it.
Well, who's the main lead not right now, huh?
Technically me,
Okay.
but it's your side bit. Go
I
on.
said shut up! And besides, as I was trying to say, being a ninja takes a lot out of you. As such, you have to rest every so often.
Also, Drova, I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to sleeping on any kind of surface. It was more like the gesture that Yuffie very energically slams herself on top of a bench. Like, that's gotta hurt.
She's gonna have back problems in 10 years.
But you see,
Yeah.
Shiroi, vengeance can come after we take a cat nap.
Yes.
Oh, goody.
Oh, speaking of
Please,
which, this
please.
is called Scarlet's Trap. That can only be a good thing.
Do you think we should leave?
Please enter the room. It's totally not a trap.
Oh, let's trap. What the could
Weapons
that
here,
possibly
weapons
mean?
everywhere. What do you think that means, Yuffie?
Serious action.
It sounds like you are too.
Unlike my old man, I'm not some lazy drunk.
Maybe we'll get to meet
Besides, I'm
him.
too young to be drunk
Something
anyway.
you'd never understand.
Wonder how
I don't think Yuffie really cares about the rules.
Not well, if the government's got anything to say about it. Good on them.
Well, if she's in jail, she can't
Wait.
be
Oh, interesting variation. Gore apparently is a prisoner right now.
That can't be. In the original, he's technically head of the town, so...
House arrest or anything.
Well, that's the thing, though. Yuffie says he's behind bars in this case,
Yeah.
so...
Unless she's meaning metaphorically. I don't know. We'll have to see what they actually mean with that.
So, anyway, as I mentioned in the previous part, the Ultimania companion book for the Final Fantasy VII Remake has pretty much confirmed that this is going to be a sequel to the original 7, and could very well have changes despite what some of the devs have been saying. For instance, STO had mentioned during the boss fight of, well, the penultimate boss fight of that game, yes, the Ultimania companion book does indeed establish that the trio of whispers that we fought late game were in fact Yazoo, Laws, and Kadaj, the remnants of Sephiroth, who could literally only have existed after the times of Advent Children, which as we know is later on the timeline here and there. Pretty much the smoking bullet is the book pretty much confirming that, yeah, it's a different Sephiroth than the one we usually face, as in, this is a Sephiroth from a different time. Which means it's his future version, which means that yes, everything Sephiroth did was in fact been a plan to screw with the timeline in hopes of undoing his original defeat at the hands of Cloud and company. Oh yeah, and they pretty much confirmed everything about the whispers that we suspected as well. And that Cloud was trying to use Omni Slash on Sephiroth, as I
Why
thought.
does that mopey asshole always get all the credit for all this, for all that, for all my babies?
Maybe because I'm the one. Maybe because I'm the one who, you know, saves the world in the end.
With help.
Technically, technically, if we keep going by just the original game, it's less ambiguous.
Yeah, for all we know, maybe Cloud did it all by himself, technically.
Or I saved the day from you. Or I saved the day and you were not saying your ass.
Technically, you're an optional playable character, so in some
Also,
cases,
what I meant-
you
what I
do
meant-
jack squat.
What I meant is that by going through the original game, there is a legitimate possibility that most of humanity got extinct.
And I'll admit I'm not too fond of that.
Well, kill. Imagine that. There is no compilation. The compilation is actually just a fever dream by all those who would die because cloud compilation.
Not to that point, Dwibs, but
I'm not gonna deny, for as much as I do love me Final Fantasy VII, I was never really a fan of the original game's ending. Bit too much of a downer for my tastes.
well, it's literally up to your interpretation. So if you want an actual positive outcome, it's totally there.
I get it, but it feels like one of those just nothing kind of endings that doesn't feel so satisfying. Especially given how much you've had to work your butt off for all this stuff. It's
That is
kind
true,
of a
but
similar.
remember... Sorry, go on.
It's kind of a similar problem I have with Mother 3's ending. Like, yes, I get it. Ambiguity is all beautiful and whatnot.
Okay.
But I do feel
Mother
like
3 is
sometimes
a
there's a
case on
case
its
where
own,
you just need to calm down with that.
What I was mentioning is that remember what Bugenhagen said. Through the entire game, you're actually tested to see what humanity is like, what they react about it, how we approach to the whole Mako energy and everything, And at the end, we tell you that at the end it's the planet who takes a choice. Mother 3 seems a bit more arbitrary about what it wants to do for its ending. So,
Well, I mean, it's not
I'd
gonna
say
matter.
it's a bit different.
Honestly, from what I can gather, it seems like they always planned for there to be a good ending, but for some reason they stuck in the ambiguous ending with 7, which is kind of hilarious because nowadays it's kind of obvious what the answer was, thanks to the compilation.
You also have to remember how the previous game had ended, 6, with the idea which was much more bittersweet in a sense that the war got saved, but there was an actual price to pay. Not a complete big one per se, but it was actually something tangible, So I get the idea Sakaguchi considering also he was influenced by the death of his mother, as we said multiple times, he probably wanted to up the ante a bit.
It's also important to remember that Final Fantasy VII at the time was a big financial risk for Square.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it got to a point where they ran out of budget.
That would actually explain the ending significantly.
I can tell you this for an experience just right now, Pedro. That should really not be a factor because despite all of its problems, budget, development, and inexperience, Xenogears still managed to have a very unambiguous ending and a pretty positive one to boot.
Okay, to be fair though, that's a different project. Oh, hold on, Dwibs.
In terms of 7, it was 3D and it was on a console.
Oh, this cutscene.
The intruders are about to reach the research facility.
And we'll let them. Meanwhile, find out what it is they want. You do have eyes, don't you?
Yeah,
Then
3
you
of
can
them.
see that while they are
Do you think the recruits actually have to take turns in being the stool? Like they have to, or they have to do pick the short stick.
Wait,
out of the
teenage ninjas?
And they've
I
come such a long way.
wonder,
We simply
could
must
they
Also, you
be
cannot use the microphone. Dwibs.
Teenage
No, I
mutant?
just pressed
Trusty
the mute
Steve
button.
should provide a
Could they
fitting
be
welcome.
teenage mutant ninja Wutans?
Man, cut system power to the research facility. Bar access to confidential data, then retrace their steps. Find out why they're here. Above all, do
And
not
meanwhile, while
let them out of
this
your
is
sight.
going on, Cloud and company are going higher up.
Either by stairs or elevator.
Stairs.
Well, actually no, Jova. This is before the fall of Sector 7, so it cannot be.
Is it? Oh, yeah, it has to have been before that.
Oops.
V15.
You can smell materia. Why am I not
To be
surprised?
fair, they do mention that both macro energy and material does have some particular type of smell. So.
Yeah, it smells of
It's kind of like the same idea of how they say gasoline has a particular odor to it.
Yeah, smells like hot glass.
But the difference between something like 7 or Xenogears Steel, I'd say, is like, well, they had different projects in mind. I do definitely get where Pedro's coming from, though, because, again, I feel like 7 was not gearing up to being an ambiguous ending out of the blue like that. Like, I think the reason it feels off is that it feels out of nowhere. Which, in a case, it might be a similar case to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where, well, they got to a point where they had to cut things short because of lack of budget or whatnot, and, well, they decided to go with an ambiguous ending, which, ironically enough, was befitting of Square Enix's situation at the time.
Even then in Holy Grail, that movie's so incredibly insane and comedic that ending still works as a random what the fuck type of ending.
Oh, exactly. Oh, exactly. I mean, I don't care for it, but I will admit it does fit. It does fit with the tone of Holy Grail. Whereas
so we've got anyway, Dover, we've got materia here to collect, but the doors aren't open. So we just got to find the power source.
Yeah, they mentioned that. Sonon mentioned that the light reactor, the generator is actually off. So how are you going to actually activate it?
There's also the fact that Final Fantasy VII was far more expensive than Xenogears because they were using the latest state-of-the-art CG technology to make a lot of it. So that game cost a lot more.
Want to know a bit of
an 3D models and everything? Yeah. Yes, Joe.
Want to know a bit of an irony? Nowadays, CG is, while technically very expensive, in some cases less expensive to do than 2D hand-drawn animation. Because CG technology these days has evolved to a point where you won't have to do as many retakes, you won't have to do as many drafts. Whereas with 2D hand-drawn animation, that requires a lot more drafting and you have to make it count. So, ironically, while CG was more expensive back then, the two have sort of switched in a sense where, because of the efficiencies of CG animation, it's less expensive to work with. And
yeah, no,
also, the more you have to fix with 2D art, the more it costs.
Yeah.
It's more so the fact that when it's specifically not just to the animation, when it's specifically traditional, hand-drawn, hand-painted animation, not digital flash animation or something like that.
This is why
Sorry,
go on.
Like, because the other day, me and Deji were actually watching the World Masterpiece Theater adaptation of Tom Sawyer, and one of the African slave women, Tom Sawyer, just read it.
Yeah.
About it. For one brief instance in a scene, her face was suddenly white. But it was just for that brief second, and both me and Deji decided, we can just chalk it up to just an animation error. It happens sometimes.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you got stuff like Alpha and Omega Free, where the sky literally flickers, and mind you, that had to be digitally implemented, so what the hell?
Since that adaptation was made in 1980, digital animation wasn't even a concept, much less a reality at that point. So everything in that show is drawn, painted, and animated by hand. Meaning, if you do screw up, and if you want to correct that, even if it's just a 1 second mistake like that face thing, you have to go back and reanimate all of it, draw all of it again, and it's incredibly time-consuming.
And remember the standard rules of animation: 24 frames per second, meaning at least 24 actual, papers per 1 second of animation.
So a lot of times when it's not so much that directors and animators didn't find them in post-production, they did. She said when it's just a 1 second thing, they begrudgingly let it go, because if they decide to fix up all minor mistakes every time one shows up, they would never get anything done.
Also, hey Cloud.
Yeah, they didn't actually update the
Just to remind you whose game this is in the main bit
I don't really. For the showcasing of the magic, it's fine. I don't
Hey. Look.
Version with Yuffie.
Look, Yuffie, it wasn't my fault. I was the one chosen to get put into Smash and you weren't, okay?
That's why eventually...
Because you're overused.
No, I'm just a good character. There's a difference.
Good character? You spent the second half of 7 whining and moaning.
Yes, Pedro.
I just figured out I was a clone of Sephiroth, but go on, Pedro.
That's why back in the late 80s, early 90s, pretty much everybody replaced normal ink and paint with digital ink and paint, because the digital ink paint is much easier to like. You can even see this in the anime industry. A lot of animes nowadays have this problem where the characters' faces look way too pale.
So yeah, after all that, we can't use the list. So we'll just
Alas.
have to go the
There's-
old-fashioned way.
Hey, by the way, Yuffie, I know that you got a nice haul stealing some of that material, but I don't know, some of that material locked away in cases could be radioactive. If you mingle with it, if you mingle with it, you could literally end up becoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Wutant, and who knows what you would mutate into.
Depends.
You'd mutate into your Kingdom Hearts 1 design.
But then there's nowhere else to go.
Oh god.
Debatable.
I forgot. Who was she voiced by in Kingdom Hearts 1?
I forgot.
Christy Romano.
She did like one or two lines anyway, so it wasn't much.
Because from what I've looked up, it was Christy Romano at the start, then it was Mae Whitman, and now it's Susie Young.
I'll admit
Wait,
that.
wait. Mae Whitman?
Yeah, Mae
Yeah,
Whitman.
because
She did voice
I guess-
Yuffie at one point, yes.
Huh,
I guess
Katara was
Romano too
Yuffie.
busy with Kim Possible.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with the Kingdom Hearts 2 outfit, but personally, I don't mind Yuffie's Kingdom Hearts 1 outfit. It's
Isn't the
fine.
Kingdom
It's
Hearts
not
2
the best, but
outfit
it's
literally
fine.
her Advent Children outfit?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wait, isn't that the Kingdom Hearts 2 one?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
No.
what I said.
What I'm saying instead, Joe, is that
I was
okay.
talking about the Kingdom Hearts 1 outfit.
Yeah.
You said Kingdom
the
Hearts
Kingdom
2,
Hearts-
though.
Sorry, I've misspoken.
No,
my, my point is the Kingdom Hearts 1 outfit. I find that one to be fine. It works.
It's
Oh,
not
it's
even
fine,
a matter
too. It's
of
just
the
like, well,
actual
if you-
clothing. It's literally just the color balance that I don't understand. Both that and the Dirge Cerberus decide to just be very weird about it.
Basically, the way
I'll
to...
get it.
The best way to describe Yuffie's costume in Kingdom Hearts 1 is that it feels like a more conservative version of Riku's costume. Weirdly enough.
And that's the one with 2 Ks, if you're doing that clear.
Yeah.
For the record, Shiro, he's talking about Final Fantasy X, Riku, a woman, not Riku from Kingdom Hearts.
That's because they said
And
the
the-
difference is in the number of Ks.
And they're both
That's the
pronounced
thing,
the
that's the-
same way, so
That's the
goddamn
thing,
it.
too. That's the thing, too. Maybe Square picked more differentiating names for these characters. It would be easy to talk about them.
Now, granted, at least Riku, and by that I mean 2K's Riku, wasn't in Kingdom Hearts 1, but she did show up in Kingdom Hearts 2, so goddamn it, Square.
Well, I mean, it's not even their first time doing it now. Wasn't there like a cloud? Wasn't there like another cloud before 7?
Yeah, Cloud
No.
of Darkness.
Well,
That's not really the same
that's,
thing. I will
that's
argue.
the English name. You know, we could have easily just, you know, if there was a potential, you know, problem of naming, we could have easily named them in a different way. The original Japanese name is literally Kurayami no Kumo, which literally does mean Cloud of
Hey,
Darkness.
Cloud.
Yes.
Is Cloud of Darkness your mom? Your real one, I mean.
That's confidential.
That explains why you're so mopey.
Cloud of Darkness
No,
isn't mopey,
no,
she
the
just
Cloud of
wants to
Darkness
devour
is not
everything.
really mopey. If
Yeah.
anything, she is very willing to be shipped with X-Death. All the talks about the Void, even if they have different views of the matter.
So you be like, so it explains either why you're really mopey or really hungry.
No, he's really mopey because he's a clone of Sephiroth, yet he didn't get the cool hair.
So what? I've seen dozens of clones of Sephiroth, and you don't hear them complaining.
But you don't know that they're clones of Sephiroth yet.
I read ahead in the script. Why?
Of course.
Ah, but
I
in
think-
character, you can't know.
Hate these guys.
I think
I'm the
I'm
main character here. I got privileges.
Guys, we're filming.
What?
We're filming! Now avoid getting shot so that I can add you to my
You're
party
not
later.
Yeah, we're actually having a recaller of the Magitech
Look
troops.
at you.
Boss, could you please focus? We get by the trooper on our
I
ass.
can talk and fight.
Oh yeah,
Poor
that's right,
Sonon.
Sonon's a thing. Don't worry, Sonon, you're totally gonna make it out and live and join the party in Remake 2, I'm
Just
sure.
think of it, of the copious amounts of drinks that you're totally gonna have after you survive this mission.
Isn't
Yep.
being alive fantastic?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're gonna enjoy retirement and everything, and your sister will be so proud looking down on you
All
from
the cats
heaven,
of the town and yeah.
and the people will be singing in the streets.
So basically what you and Dwibs are saying, Jovis, I think I'm a clone now. There's always hundreds of
Hanging around.
I think
I'm a clone now.
Does that make Dr. Hojo the Draco?
Oh my god, yes, totally.
That's the
Okay,
song.
okay,
That's
I'm a
the
bit
song Cloud sings every time before he goes to bed.
I'm a bit displaced with the timing. What year was the actual revival and the meat of a new Clone Saga?
1993, if I remember correctly. I know because I lived through that shit, believe it or not.
What was
Okay.
it?
I saw some shit, man.
I had to wonder.
I was there, man.
Trust me, Shiro, okay, everyone mentioned about the deal with Mephisto these days, but the clones, before that, the Clone Saga was generally regarded as one of the, if not the absolute worst Spider-Man story ever.
Okay,
I'm not
okay.
even kidding you, Shiro. It gets to the point, to a point of complete absurdity, where the villain throws the supposed real Peter Parker into a pool full of Spider-Man clones.
Let me put
Like,
a list.
seriously.
Huh?
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's that
It's
ridiculous.
a bit more
Shiro.
complicated than that, but first, the guy, Jova.
Okay, so it started off in 1994 as an interesting idea, you know, clones of Peter Parker. Then it dragged on into the years of 1996, and that happened. Totally, it couldn't get any worse than that.
From October 1994 to December 1996, so yeah, it can factor out a bit.
Okay, let me put this straight.
Wait,
On
was
air.
it- wait,
Hang
was
on,
it-
Pedro wanted to say something.
Are you sure it's 96? Because I remember the
It's
Clone
stated
Saga-
here, from October 1994 to December 1996.
That is admittedly the
I remember-
publication
Is
date.
it possible, like, let me guess, in your country they arrived a bit late than that?
Not just that, like, I remember it lasting at the very least 3 years.
Oh,
Because remember, Marvel's marketing department at the time had full control of Shinra.
wait a minute. I think I get what he means, though. Like, that might have stretched out a bit more past the year here and there, which could have led to it. But, okay, on average, comic events maybe go for a few months or whatnot. So imagine a comic, well, okay, this wasn't so much a comic book event, but a saga that lasted
Once he was in the
for...
secret vault.
Alright, go ahead, let's explain this.
Basically, in this quote-unquote secret vault, you're basically playing box smashing again. This time with Yuffie.
Oh my
The more
god,
boxes
Yuffie's
you
good at
smash,
hacking.
The more points you get, and the more points you get, the better the prize you'll get at the end.
Remember, Jova, you just punch a keyboard.
Yeah.
But seriously, the fact that Yuffie's smart enough to do that is a revelation, something we've never seen in the canon of 7 before. Like, this changes a lot.
If you need set then.
We still
I'm
need him
going
for
to
the
do-
rocket ship.
As this boost of stagger.
That said, though, we may not. That said, though. That said,
Cloud might be able to pilot the thing.
that said, though, we may not need Katesif anymore.
Oh.
That
Still-
explains why we saw him early, so we don't have to see him afterwards.
Hey, look, Tio, I'd rather we not have a teammate who constantly betrays us and we just go, oh, okay, let's let him join back up with us again.
That's the entire point. Whatever. I'm not even gonna dignify that statement. But to make you understand in very simplistic terms, Shiroi, the meaning of what we just said about the Clone Saga, it's essentially an event that spans for way too long. It involves a gajillion characters, and 2/3 of said characters have like story arcs that go absolutely nowhere, or like are just like completely forgot, like in the middle of their own story arcs, you know. So at the end, and at the very end, it focuses on a very selective bunch, like 5 or 6 in total, and the payoff is still disappointing.
And here's the thing.
See, aside for the last two points, the rest of this sounds a lot like I'm getting some Endless 8 vibes from this
Yeah.
crap.
You wanna know the real? You wanna know the real? You wanna know the real kicker, Shiroi? There's more than one Clone Saga. Technically, the Clone Saga we're referring to was the second Clone Saga.
Yeah.
Was the first one any good?
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
because
actually,
it
it
was
was
short
good.
and sweet and on point.
What happened was, basically what happened was, I should explain. Back in the day, Shiroi, Marvel was having a lot of trouble competing against DC, because at the time DC was getting a lot of acclaim and sales, thanks to their Nightfall arc, which is the the iconic arc where Bane does the iconic back-breaking thing.
Which also ran alongside this little comic you may have heard of known as The Death of Superman.
Yeah, and also the Death of Superman, even though I'm not exactly a fan of that per se.
Okay.
It was a big thing at the time.
Okay, one thing we have to remember about The Death of Superman is that arguably what it did do was refresh the Superman brand. Yes, ironically, the saga of Superman's death did help refresh it by one, making Superman appear a lot more vulnerable and helping people realize the sacrifices he does have to make, and two, helping put a refresh to things in the comic worlds.
So I got myself an ATB boost area.
Actually, I thought it was a sister.
It was a boost assist. You know,
Actually, no, they didn't mention the three specific categories different.
But sure, you want to know how ridiculous the Clone Saga got? Even Marvel parodied themselves. And as early as January 1997, when they made this little ditty called Spider-Man. 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga #1.
That is because it got to a point where the actual people, the writers and artists working on the Clone Saga just did not want to do anything anymore with it. But, okay, no, we're not getting a cutscene.
Let it not be... Oh.
No, I thought we were getting a cutscene, but no, go on.
I used the wrong thing.
Okay, let it not be said.
What happened was...
Oh, sorry.
Like Jova said, Battle of Superman and Nightfall, which was a Batman arc, were giving all the DC was rolling in the monies.
Yeah.
And in critical acclaim, and Marvel was having trouble competing. Then when it got to a point, Shiro, where the Marvel marketing department literally got full creative control. Meaning anything that they think might sell better, they would tell the artists and writers, and they would do it because the marketing department was now officially in charge.
As you can imagine, chaos ensued, but arguably with a good start.
Yeah, but even though when the 90s Clone Saga did start fine enough, eventually when the marketing department realized that it was selling really well, they demanded that the Clone Saga would be stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched like mad.
But then...
Hence why the problems that I mentioned tied to having a gajillion characters with different story arcs, but that went absolutely nowhere.
But believe it or not, sure, here's where things get insane. So they stretched and stretched it until they realized one problem. Guys, we need a concrete answer to this saga here. Yeah, that's the thing. In extending the saga, they unfortunately eventually got to a point where they were writing themselves into a corner without an out.
I'm pretty sure it'll be that simple, mate.
Totally.
Not just that, Sonon is completely right. Avalanche and Wu-Tai will never see each other face to face. At all.
I like what he says here, actually.
They don't see the world how we see it.
And when you look at the world, what is it that you see?
Let me guess, your sister.
To dust. Plumes of gun smoke.
Crawling in my skin.
You're fun at parties, my dude.
No, it's spoken more like of an actual war veteran.
Yeah, he's a war veteran.
Well, yes,
He's clearly suffering from, okay, not necessarily PTSD, but some case of, you know...
He has some trauma there.
Yeah, like post-war trauma, but not in a sense of necessarily something that is essentially like PTSD, but something that gives him a pessimistic worldview, in a sense of what's the point anymore.
For as much as I tease, yes, I'm not going to say that he's not a legit character. My point is like, well, still, it is like, you know, kind of edgy. You got it.
I get a bit of nihilism from that whole thing.
Well, the people died. It's kind of hard not to...
Yeah, it's like that face screenshot. People die when they're killed.
It kind of has
Thank
to,
you,
Joe.
Shiro.
Not to mention, Joe, it makes sense for Sonon to be like that, because remember, the whole point is to have a straight man to cancel out Yuffie's... Alright, my favorite cutscene right here. Check this out.
Uh-oh. Oh, come on!
We didn't think far ahead, did we?
I know, but look, I love this particular interaction, but it's a very subtle cutscene, and I'll explain why afterwards.
I know. Spare the chow bean?
Sure.
Be careful not to crack your teeth on it.
Now remember, he's a Wutai. He knows how.
He knows what to do with it.
You sound surprised.
Hold on.
Man, I'm glad you're here.
Also, here's the balcony.
It really helps, knowing I'm not alone in all this.
Yeah, same here.
Apparently Yuffie didn't know.
And that's the. There you go. That's the payoff of the Chow Beans. Remember, at the beginning of this DLC, Yuffie was offering the Chow Beans to all the Midgarians, and the Midgarians wouldn't be able to eat them. And the fact that he was able to eat the Chow Bean just reminded her, oh yeah, I'm so glad that I have you here, as in someone who she knows, someone from Wutai, someone that she can trust.
Boy,
you
it
know?
sure
I
would be a
also
shame.
viewed
It's a great character moment between the two.
Boy, it
I
sure
also
would-
viewed it as a matter of I can see actually where you're coming from. I also view it as a matter of did the Chow Beans themselves, while not actually meaning it, offer an actual exercise of concentration for her, and he's suggesting that was also to have her keep her focus.
How much you wanna?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Why do I have
yes,
a,
boss?
why do I have a, why have I got a half shell on my
I'm
arm?
gonna go to town on
It's a
this.
garter.
Because Nomura thought it was an original design trait.
Her stealth now. Weird farm cat.
Don't you see, Yuffie? You entail asymmetrical design.
And our
It's
triumphs again.
again, it's a great demonstration of why Sonon is so essential to why this DLC works.
She literally
because
stuffed that boomerang into her pockets.
Well, I better a bit. It cost me 15 quid. Yeah, that's the thing though. This DLC was a bit cheaper than say Kingdom Hearts 3 Remake. This only cost me like $14.99.
I was about instead to mention another thing. Okay, no, the vanilla game still has some elements like this with say Aerith, but this is a case where they sacrifice a bit the whole Yuffie is not carrying any the weapon on her back when not in combat, and it just dematerialize in the usual fashion.
But no, in this case, she literally stuffs it in her back pocket.
Alright.
See you later for the great excursions of Yuffie Kisaragi.
Sure.
See ya.
Yeah.